Texas, Republican congressman from the 1st District leading the fight against amnesty and all the crazy things happening in the United States. Representative Louie Gohmert, Congressman, great to have you back on the show, sir.
Hey, always good to talk to you, John. Thank you.
My pleasure. Why don't we get right to the Judge Haenen's stay on President Obama's what I think is illegal amnesty moves, giving up to 6 million people permits, driver's license, Social Security numbers, right to work. But now we find out in defiance of this stay that up to 550,000 illegals got their paperwork anyway in complete defiance of this order. Is there no rule of law?
Well, that's a good question, whether there's no rule of law. There is a concern about the law in the House and in the Senate, but for heaven's sake, when it comes to the border, when it comes to this administration, you've got no respect for the rule of law. It is a disaster. And so, we've got Judge Haenen's order, and when I saw that it was over 120 pages long, I knew exactly what he was doing. I did it as a judge and Intermediate Court of Appeals Chief Justice when I knew that I was a better lawyer than those that were going to be defending my ruling. Then I would basically make my order the brief where I explained everything and set out the facts I was relying on and what the evidence showed, and then set out the law that applied to all of that, and then drew the conclusion so that it was really going to be tough for an appellate court to say, this is not proper. And it also didn't give any room for the lawyers defending the judge's order to mess up and misstate something that he relied on or intended. And it is just a fantastic order. But one of the things, and I've been criticized before for saying, Obama just spoke this latest amnesty into existence, overruled, years of Congress passing laws, presidents signing the laws into effect. He just spoke new law, and people said that's outrageous. It was an executive order, and I've even heard on Fox so-called experts say, well, it was about an executive order. John, he didn't even sign an executive order. He just said, this is what I want, and then the Secretary of Homeland Security, Jay Johnson, went back, did a couple of memos, overruled United States law passed by Congress and signed by the president. So when you ask, about the rule of law, apparently when it comes to this administration, it's whatever the president feels like speaking on a given day.
I tell you what, Congressman, that is interesting insight. I had never heard that, but now that you're saying it, that is outrageous. So this president, there was nothing signed. There was no Rose Garden ceremony. There was no order. He just went on TV and said, I'm going to change it starting immediately, called up Jay Johnson and said, this is what we need done. He sent a memo out, and that's it. Isn't that... And
Johnny did the same thing with regard to the Internet. The FCC had given indications they weren't going to take over the Internet. And then all of a sudden, Obama makes a statement publicly that they need to take over the Internet. And of course, they call it net neutrality. That's about as much an anonym as saying the Affordable Care Act, when it's just costing the nation lives and massive amounts of money. But he just decides and speaks, and the law changes like it would in any good monarchy.
It's like the magic wand syndrome, right?
Yeah. Well, it's certainly not the Midas touch either. More the people touch.
As we're getting to the Midas touch, I just have to ask you this sidebar question. So I get up today and I'm preparing for my show, and I see that his poll numbers are up, and it was about 3 a.m., and I almost fell off my chair. I'm like, how could this guy's numbers be up? What is going on?
Well, it's the same way he got elected. It's consistent with the old adage that democracy ensures a people are governed no better than they deserve. So you and I didn't deserve this president. Much of America did not, but a majority of Americans are so out of touch. They are so careless in following Washington. What happens here and holding people accountable is just not something they care to do. And they're like some people I grew up with, grown out of it, but they used to say, I don't care what the government does as long as they stay out of my business. And what's happened is when you don't care what the government does, they don't stay out of your business. They're all in your business, but he's what a majority of Americans deserved, and we're paying a heavy price because a majority are not keeping up with what's happening.
Congressman, let's get to trade right now. The fast-track trade agreement is going to make its way through the House in the next day or so.
Well, and don't forget, we're going to disallow the president to overrule immigration law and these trade agreements, too.
Well, that's it. If you look at the Trans-Pacific Partnership, what is hidden in this thing, as we understand it, is tens of thousands of new HB1 and HB5 visas, basically allowing another litany of immigrant workers to come into the United States, again, driving down wages for the U.S. worker. What do you make of it?
Well, as I understand it, it may not just be tens of thousands. It could be a lot more than that. It's something negotiable. And when you've got two parties that are giving away the store and nobody at the table that's trying to save the store, then this is the kind of thing you get in an agreement. And I know I've got friends that I think the world of and trust a lot here in Congress that are saying, Louie, no, this is a really good thing. This trade agreement, it's going to give us more control over these trade agreements. Well, if you take the position that those are things that have to be approved by Congress, which I believe that, if it's a treaty, the Senate has to approve it with 2/3 margin, then we should not be giving this president more authority than he already has. It's just a huge mistake. When are we going to learn our lessons?
I don't know. It just seems that there's a number of conservatives, Congressman Gohmert, as you know, if you say free trade, it's like a dog whistle. It's like Pavlov's dog. They all fall in line behind it. Much of your caucus leadership behind this thing. But the Trans-Pacific Partnership is not free trade. It's managed trade. And look, we're letting in countries like Vietnam that are paying their workers 9 cents an hour. How does this make any sense for the American worker?
Well, it doesn't make sense for the American worker, and at some point, more Democrats who have lost their job and they're union workers, and at some point they're going to realize, wait a minute, it's the Democratic Party that's pushing this mass illegal immigration coming in and amnesty, and they're wanting to take my job, and they're wanting to do it a lot cheaper. They've driven down my wages. They've driven down my benefits, and this is not a good thing to be pushing for massive amnesty and even more immigration. John, we allow more visas than any country in the world. It's not like there is a hatred of immigrants. I mean, Republicans love immigrants. We believe that, that's fresh water flowing into the pond to keep it from getting stagnant. But when we're already as generous as it gets when it comes to immigration and visas, then we don't need to wipe out jobs for people that are working. And I know you've seen the numbers about how many of the new jobs have been taken by people that are here, immigrants, legally and illegally, and it's devastated both the job opportunities and the wages. There was one year, a few years ago, when National Chamber of Commerce gave me an award and said there was only one vote where I didn't vote like they wanted. I'm sure now there's a lot more than that, but. But it was the vote where I was one of the few people that voted against doing a trade agreement with Vietnam. And I'm sorry, but personally, until Vietnam finally turns over all the information that they have had since 1973, 4, 5. They've had information about our POWs, who died, where they died. Some of them back then were still alive, and they weren't giving us the information. But, until they turn over all that information, I just think it's ridiculous to be doing a trade agreement. I mean, it's almost as stupid as working a deal with Iran to make sure they have nuclear weapons.
Let's get to the international front in just a moment. I just want to get back to Judge Haenen's order.
Yes,
you were a lawyer. You were a judge. Can you share with our audience, walk us through what happens now with this stay? It's going to be, it's challenged by the administration, so it goes one level up. What happens?
Well, I think that Judge Haenen, I knew him from law school. He was one of the brightest lawyers in the state. He's a terrific United States judge. And, the administration has been trying to appeal his temporary injunction, and that hasn't worked out yet, and they are trying to appeal the ruling. But I think Judge Haenen has done such a great job laying out the case as to why this injunction was appropriate to put in place that I think on appeal the administration is the odds are they're not going to be successful because they have been engaged in improper conduct, in violating the Constitution, in violating the law. And, Judge Haenen has laid all of that out in his order. So I think on appeal, things will look real good. And they have, the appellate court has said, look, we're not rushing in with a quick appellate stay of what Judge Haenen is doing. We're letting him make these decisions. And then when it turns out that this administration's lawyers lied to the United States District Judge, I mean, there are people that have gone to jail for lying, that have lost their license for lying to courts. It's really, they said there is no way we're going to go forward with anything. We're going to respect your position. Nobody's going to be getting benefits or visas or amnesty under this November of 2014 memos from Jay Johnson. And then it turned out they had to go in early March and say, well, we weren't quite accurate on that. Turns out there's over 100,000. So, they haven't been honest. And if the appellate court's doing their job, which I think they will at the Fifth Circuit, they're going to say Judge Haenen's exactly right.
Will it eventually go up to the Supremes?
Well, I hope so. I think this is a great case to go all the way to the Supreme Court to get a ruling that you just can't totally ignore the Constitution and existing law and do memos that overrule existing law. I think this is a great case. In law school, they teach you bad facts make bad law. So if you appeal the wrong case and the facts are so just really alarming that a court sets a bad precedent because the facts are bad, then you set a bad precedent for the future. But I think these facts are so solid in proving that the administration's so out of touch with the Constitution. I think the appellate courts will do the right thing. So I do hope it goes all the way to the Supreme Court.
Can we run out the clock on Obama?
Well, that is the $64,000 question. And I guess the part that's inferred is, can we run out the clock on Obama before he runs out the clock on America? That's the question, and all I know is we got to keep fighting.
All right, good
we got to try. Thank you for educating people in a widespread area, because that's important. People have got to understand what's going on if we're going to salvage what's left of this republic, if you can keep it, madam.
Iranian deal coming to Congress by way of Democratic U.S. Senator from Virginia, Tim Kaine, and others, making the president come. Look, I just had Mark Warner on our show yesterday, and I don't think he's in favor of it. Now, he said he was undecided, and he said he was right in the middle, but he raised 9 objections on this Iranian deal. And, I talked to Senator Warner a lot. I don't think he's behind it at the end of the day. Is it going to pass?
Well, I've got some real concerns because, some are painting this as the fix to the Iran bad deal, when actually this is a treaty. I don't care what you call it. It's a treaty that the president's creating with Iran. And as I understand it, if this bill passes, then it will require 67 votes to knock down what the president has done, whereas if the bill doesn't pass and they just follow the Constitution and call it a treaty, then it takes 67 votes to affirm, to advise and consent to it. So I'm a little concerned about the bill not being what it's being represented to be, and because the fact is the deal with Iran is a treaty and it needs to be stopped. It's going to give Iran the nuke.
That's going to be the final word. We want to thank Congressman Louie Gohmert for being with us, Republican, 1st District of Texas. Also, Congressman, I got to give a shout-out to your communications director, Kimberly Willingham. She's very accessible. She does a fabulous job. And for people like me, she's an absolute gem.
She's awesome.
I want you to tell her how fabulous she is, all right?
I will sure do that. And I will tell her it came from you. Thanks so much, John.